Hello and welcome back to part 2 of making the bed. If you've not watched the first part, please go back and watch that first so that this one makes sense. So this is where we're up to, where the roof of the bed isn't attached, and I was thinking about using these poppy heads at the top as a way of attaching the top of the bed. Now, I'm sorry about any graininess of footage. It is night time, so I'm filming in the dark and I haven't got any lighting or professional setup, so hopefully it'll be okay. So this is what the house looks like. It's too big at the moment for fitting into the doll's house room. I knew that would be the case because I'd measured the posts to be the exact size that I wanted without taking into account the height of the poppy heads. So I'm just going to trim this down and then have another think about how to attach the top. Now, even if I attach the top like this, the poppy heads are still too tall, so the bed needs to come up to the height of the post that I've just trimmed. So what I'm going to do is attach the top to here and then think about embellishing the top of it. So this is the top of the bed. I've turned it upside down, turned the whole bed upside down so that I can glue it in place whilst it's standing up by itself. So because I don't have enough height to stick the whole poppy head to the top of the post, I've decided to remove this top bit, which is the most patterned and ornate, and I'm going to pop that at the top of each post instead. Really sorry about how dark the footage is here. It does get lighter later on in the video. This is the bed drying upside down. I am worried that it's too bulky still. So in the part 1 of the video I said I was worried that it was too big, and I still am. I had a little look at adding embellishments when it was drying the right way up. I did at first add this one, but then I did actually remove it because I thought it didn't look quite right. So then I decided to cut some strips of card to go around each part of the bed so that I could cut out of it with a craft knife a design that I wanted on the side of the wood. It was easier than carving into the wood. I applied PVA glue all over the back of each piece of card. I made sure that I'd spread it with a spatula so that it was covering every single section, and I'm hoping that the PVA glue, with it being water-based, will actually relax the fibres in the card so that as it dries it stretches onto the wood, so that when I use some acrylic paint to paint it later, I'm hoping this will prevent it from sort of rippling and bending. Fingers crossed. Next, I made a back panel by cutting out a piece of plywood, and I then embellished it using one of the poppy heads, and I also cut out the letter L and the letter M from the plywood for the little mouse's house. And I was influenced there by the ES that I saw in the stonework at Hardwick Hall, which is in a previous video, which stood for Elizabeth of Shrewsbury, so I thought it was just a nice way to personalise this bed going into my Tudor house. It was getting very late here, hence the dark footage with it being night time. I decided to leave it there and come back to it in the morning. So when I came back to it in the morning, it was all dry and looking like this. I placed it into my doll's house, but I still wasn't happy with the size of it. The top panel to me is too big. I don't think it's the right scale, so I turned the bed upside down. I tried to cut away at it, which was a risk, but it was too strong. So I thought I need to move on to some finishing touches and not worry about it. So I'm going to apply some wood glue and do some sanding and hope that actually these finishing touches will help me feel a little bit happier about it. So I used wood filler here to fill in the edges and to smooth down, and I'm also going to sand as well. I used the polyfiller to go over where the card meets the wood to try and smooth these edges off too. Where the bedposts meet the panels, I decided to add quite a bit more filler to give a rounded effect so that it appeared like the wood had been carved out of a solid piece rather than stuck together. I then tipped the bed upside down. I'd polyfilled around the feet as well, you can see, so that there's not a defined edge, so that it looks like it's being carved out of one piece of wood. I still wasn't happy with this bit here, the top bit, which is at the bottom here because I flipped the bed over. So I had a really good think and thought I need to do something with it. I started by trying to cut this panel out of it, but I just couldn't. It was so strong and I couldn't get the angle as well, and I was so worried about ruining it because it was looking really nice and it was a very sturdy, strong bed, but I'm just not happy with it, so I needed to find a way to change it. This wasn't the way because I just could not get through the glue. However, I did find a way to move this panel here, but I haven't managed to get it on camera. For some reason it didn't film properly, but basically I used the hairdryer, which is hot, to melt the glue a little bit, which meant that I could push the ceiling panel down. So you can see there the bed's upside down and that panel's been pushed down. So I got my Dremel out and I thought I'm not going to cut away a straight edge because I'll never be able to do that. It will look wonky and a mess. Instead, I'm going to cut away a design which will help to raise that height of the bed. I used the sanding barrel on my Dremel. Please don't copy how I'm doing it. As you can see, the wood was getting a little bit scorched. If anyone's got any suggestions as to why that was happening and what I need to do differently, please do let me know. I am not an expert at all, as you can see, because it looks as if I've set my bed on fire. It was fine though, it was just getting a little bit hot, so I let it cool down for a few seconds. I switched the sanding barrel. I went through quite a few of them because they were wearing out. It might have been because of the speed I had it on, I don't know, I'm sure someone will probably tell me, but I was so happy with the outcome. So although that top panel is still the same height, by sanding away those curves it means that there's probably another 1.5–2 centimetres there that's added some distance between the panel and the bottom of the bed. So I am now going to give them a sand down, and I'm also going to do the polyfiller again that I did before, just because, as you can see, because I've been doing such rough work with the bed, some of the polyfiller has cracked and some of the legs have come away a little bit, so I will stick them back on. So this will help to add some finishing touches. I've decided to add even more polyfiller actually this time anyway, to make that carved effect from the posts into the feet a bit smoother. I also added some wood filler around the lettering on the back panel of the bed, and I did this because at the moment it looks very apparent that the letters are cut out and stuck on, but I wanted it to appear as if they'd been chiselled out of the solid piece of wood. So by adding the polyfiller, I'm hoping to make a bit of a sort of like a beveled edge leading up to the letters. When that was all dry, I gave everything a good sand down, and I also used my craft knife to just scrape away a little bit at the wood filler to shape it a bit more, including just making a more defined edge in between the pillars of the letter M. I then painted everything up using the raw umber acrylic paint that I've used throughout the house, so that I've got matching wood throughout every room. I was nervous about painting over the panels of card in case they crinkled, but actually it worked out really well. They stayed flat. I think that's because of the glue that I'd used previously, because it had stretched the fibres so that the card had already sort of done its wrinkling process and re-dried flat. And also I think it's given a really good effect, as if the patterns are carved into the wood. Where I'd earlier tried to add an embellishment at the top in the centre, there was still a blob of glue that I hadn't managed to sand down, so I decided to make a mini shield to go over there whilst everything was drying. So I used the same technique of carving out of just card, and then I stuck it onto a piece of plywood, painted it up, and that's going to go in the centre. A little bit of the card had ripped on the edge, so I had fixed it, which is why there's a tiny bit of card sticking off here. So I cut it out of the plywood once it was dry, and I snipped that little bit of card off the edge before then painting it up. And whilst it was drying, I used some of the leftover paint to paint up this little chest that I bought for really cheap. You can see it in the Dollhouse haul video, so that I could have a matching set of bedroom furniture. I left everything to dry, and then the next morning I came to stick my little shield on at the top. Now at the back of the bed where the mattress will sit, you can see some gluey marks because I'd moved that base down a little bit. That's not a problem because I'm going to be putting a mattress over there. So I'm going to stick this on with some glue, and then I'm also going to attach the back panel. When I came to attach the back panel, it just didn't fit by a millimetre or so. That was because when I'd sanded the arches into the top of the bed, I'd rearranged the bedposts a little bit, so I just needed to trim this down before adding the glue and sticking it on. It wasn't a big problem, it was easy to adjust. I then used a little bit of the wood filler just to go along the edges where the joins are to make it nice and neat before painting it. I did this on the inside at the back next to the posts as well, and the whole bed is looking a little bit dusty because of the dust on my fingertips, so I'll have to give it a good dust down when it's dry, a bit of a sand, and then its final coat of paint. As a finishing touch, I decided to add some metallic gold eyeshadow by rubbing it into the crevices in the chest and on the carving on the bed. This was the finished outcome. Obviously it doesn't have a mattress or any bedding on it yet, and I am intending on putting a little curtain as well on it, but I'm really pleased with how the carvings came out, especially the L and the M on the backboard of the bed and the little carved shield at the top. I love how the poppies have been used. I think that was a real success, and it's nice and strong, and it's ready to go into the doll's house. Now, I would like to know your opinions on a few bits, so please do leave your answers in the comments. I initially was going to put my bed into this section here where I hadn't put any panelling, but when I put it in here, although it looked alright, I thought actually I think it might look better if I turn it around and have it against the very back wall where the beams are. So this is it in this position here where it was intended, but I can't push it right up against the wall because the poppy heads obviously come a little bit further out than the posts. But I'm thinking if I turn it around, I could then maybe put a wall hanging, a tapestry in that area where there's no panelling, and maybe the little chest too. Please let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your opinions on it, but I do think that this direction possibly looks a little bit better. And where do you think the chest should go? Should it be at the front, at the side here? Do let me know. Thank you so much for watching the video. Well done for making it to the end because it's been a long one. Please let me know what you think in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and have a lovely day. Thank you.